It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in. Tune in.
How do you think we can shift that mindset and start to invest in real estate together as a community or with our friends or whoever?
It starts like podcasts like this, like classes like REAP, the Real Estate Associate Program LA. It starts out with us networking. It starts with us saying, okay, this isn't going to be perfect, but I'm willing to put in $10,000. The same $10,000 I would waste over a few years on clothes and drinks and different things. I'm going to invest that into my community, into something that should have a long-term success. It's really one of those things where you have to go into the situation saying, you know what, Sam, I like what you're doing in Ohio. I'm going to invest $5,000 with you. If you can show me that you have a plan for this and that you think that you're going to, and that you're dedicated to doing it, I'm going to invest with you because that's what I should do. You know, we have no problem investing in tech companies that we don't know anything about. Look at WeWork. Everybody thought it was the biggest thing since sliced bread, the best thing out there. Nobody looked it up. It was a gentleman with a flamboyant guy with a good story, and everybody just said, here's our money. Now, in our community, we don't do that. It says Sam starting a WeWork. Mm-hmm. I don't know. He think he's better than everybody. He over here trying to do this. I don't know. He probably don't even know what he's doing. I'm not investing with him. Other communities say, well, he went to college. He works hard. He has the numbers. Support it and see if it does well. And the funny part is, we'll support it. We don't know anything about it, and our own people will support it, saying, I'm going to make some money off of this. But the guy you grew up with that's been working hard for 10 years, you saw him go through college, you saw him working somewhere, it's not the same support. So I guess my honest opinion is you just have to have the fortitude to say, you know what, this guy's doing it. He showed me the numbers. I'm going to go out on faith. I'm going to support my community. I'm not going to just talk about supporting it. I'm actually going to put my money where my mouth is.
Definitely. And that brings up another question. So a lot of people in our community are afraid to invest in our community and see value in investing in our communities, and we're, mostly Black and brown people. However, others have seen the value in our community and have just, acted in the opposite way and purchased and invested. What are your thoughts on that?
If you're raised in a community where most of your friends die early, you're not thinking about the long term. And so it's very hard for you to, what I call, stand around the corner. You'll see a Caucasian family move into a neighborhood, looking around the corner. They're saying, I went to some city council. I saw that the train is going to be coming here. I saw that they have a plan that's going to bring some economic upswing. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to live next to these people, and I'm going to ride it out. I'm going to get in early and make some money. Whereas our community, a lot of times when you don't see yourself with a long-term plan, it's hard for you to say, I'm going to invest here and I'm going to wait it out, because you're thinking, I want to enjoy the little bit of time I have on this planet. I'm going to go move to Beverly Hills, live my best life, and whatever happens, happens. I can't be worried about tomorrow. The problem is, for a majority of people now, we live a lot longer than we think. You think you're going to have a short life, and then you live to 80, and you don't have anything put together.
Yeah.
And that's what we're starting to see. So it's one of those things where you have to really be paying attention to what's happening out in front of you. I mean, I always use the example of going to a nice sit-down steakhouse, right? You go there, I'll start from this way. You can go to the grocery store, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can get filet mignon, some asparagus, some potatoes, and a bottle of wine, and spend maybe $70 and feed 2 people and have a really good night. But you have to prepare the food, cook it, do everything, and then serve it. Or you can go to Morton's or Roof Chris or one of the more expensive steakhouse, and you can get that same meal for $400. But they prepared it for you. So now you have to pay that premium. And that's the same thing we have to start doing is you have to have the foresight to say, I'm going to go to the grocery store and put the work in to prepare this meal. Because if you're waiting for somebody else to prepare it for you so that you can invest, it's going to cost you more. Magic Johnson saw that Black people like Starbucks, that Black people like TGI Fridays, that Black people like to go to the movies. We all know we like nice things, but we don't want to invest in our own communities because in our mind, we don't, for some reason, think the guy next to us likes nice things. I mean, through the history, I mean, we take care of our cars, our shoes, our clothes. Yes, we like nice stuff. Why wouldn't we be the one supplying it to each other?
Definitely. I agree. And then something else that came to mind. You mentioned previously buying a home and then using the equity to buy something else. Can you talk about what exactly that means and what that will look like for someone who, wants to buy a home and eventually do that down the line, or somebody who already has a home and wants to tap into some of that equity to make another investment?
Okay, so one of the things I love is everybody loves to talk about equity. Everybody's like, I got so much equity in my house. Equity is not a real thing unless you tap it. You have to be able to get to that money. So let's just say you buy a house for $150,000 in Inglewood, a condo, right? You bought it in 2012, and now it's worth $300,000. You've been paying on it for these years, so you've knocked down your mortgage to $120,000. So you have essentially $180,000 worth of equity in that property. Now, some people would say, I'm going to take out as much of this money as I can and have a good time. That's not the right way to go about it. My philosophy is, okay, if you have a condo that's worth $300,000 and you have close to $200,000 of equity, how do you deploy some of that capital? How do you get some of that money out? Okay, the first thing is you want to make sure you don't take out too much money that you can't afford to pay the mortgage anymore. You got to figure out what that number is. And the second thing is you have to figure out where you're going to place those funds, because one of the things you don't want to do is have a bunch of money in your pocket with no plan, because that's the easiest way to go broke. Yeah. The first thing is you have to say, okay, I'm going to take out $80,000 because I can still afford to pay my mortgage if I take out this $80,000. I'm going to put this $80,000 into 2 to 3 things that I think are really beneficial. First thing is I'm going to buy another asset. I'm going to put down the money to buy a duplex or a triplex in Bakersfield that's going to pay for itself and also give me some return cash in hand that I can now put into paying down that property or to put to paying towards the mortgage on the condo that I refinanced. I cashed out refinance. Second thing, you take that $80,000 and you pay off your student loan debt. That allows you to now be able to work with cash on hand. You're not in debt anymore. You pay it off over a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 4%, 4.5%, much cheaper, and it's spread out for a really long time than having to carry that on your student loan debt. Now your debt to income is a lot lower and you can qualify to buy other assets. Or the third thing is, which I see a lot of people do, is they take that money to just pay for their kids' school in the first place. They'll put their kids through college. Their kids don't come out with debt, and their kids have a step up on other people. They don't have to scramble to just get any other job because they can take their time a little bit because they're not just burdened with all this debt that most of us have now. It's like the new sharecropping is student loan debt. You're working now just to pay back debt that you accumulated. Well, most of us aren't even using the education that we went to school for. So my thing is you either take that equity out, buy another asset, pay off some debt that's you're having to pay for that is a heavier burden with a higher interest rate, or you take it to make sure that you ensure your kids start off on a stronger footing.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate?
Yeah.
Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance?
You know who it is?
The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the number one place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
When I tell people I invest in Dayton, Ohio, they're like, "Oh, okay, where's that? Is that Cleveland?" And no, it's not Cleveland. It's another state. And you know, it's just amazing the reactions people have when I tell them that. You know, it would be one thing if it was, you know, Detroit or Cleveland or some popular city, but Dayton is kind of like some random place.
Yeah.
What you get when you tell?
Yeah. So when I tell people about, I get kind of the same thing. They'll ask me, where is it? And then they'll say, well, how did you, like, who do you know in Dayton? And I'll say, I don't know anyone. Then they'll say, why did you pick, you know, Dayton? And then I have a list of things in my head, but to the average person, like if I tell them, it won't really mean anything to them. And so when an investor asks me, then that's when I can kind of break it down to like what I saw in the area that actually, you know, made me think, I think this place has some promise. And yeah, so definitely say why you picked there, who you know that's in that area, and where is Dayton. I don't even know where that is, brother.
Definitely. It's so funny, man. And the who you know thing, that gets me sometimes. And but from the average person's perspective, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we naturally just think more of like security, and if we're doing something out of state, we want to know someone there. And even some investors have told me that. But for me, it's like, no, I don't have a connection to Dayton. I have a connection to cash flow. But
for real,
I don't know anybody there. Or even like sometimes people say they wouldn't invest where they wouldn't live, and I'm like, does it make money though?
man, for real. You know, it's Dayton. It's an interesting place. You know what I'm saying? And I definitely, those reactions are, I enjoy them. And then when people tell me, man, like you said, when they'll say like, oh, I don't even want to invest in some place, you know, where I can't see, I can't feel, I can't touch. And, you know, I'll tell them, I'm like, look, even if I invest in my city, I don't want to go to this house every single day anyway. I want to do other stuff. If I have a tenant that live around the corner from me, I don't want to see that tenant every day. I want to see that tenant, you know, maybe a few times a year, maybe, and then let that just be it. So I don't care if it's out of state, cross country, any place, you know what I'm saying? If the numbers make sense, it cash flows, you know, I get my systems in place, then it's good. I'm good to go.
I feel it. So talk to us more about how you even, I guess when you started trying to look into markets, how did you even find Dayton? How did that even come up in your research?
Okay. So the first place I looked at, I Googled real estate investing, and how I got on real estate investing was because I wanted to buy a house. And at the time I was somehow a Grant Cardone video popped up on YouTube. And so I'm like, who's this guy talking about this 10X stuff, whatever. And so I clicked on his video, started watching his stuff. And then, you know, people that's familiar with Grant Cardone, he is not in favor of you buying your own home. He's like, oh, that's dumb. That's the dumbest thing you could do and all this other stuff. So I said, okay, started to do more research and somehow landed on Bigger Pockets. And on Bigger Pockets, they have like, anytime someone like asks a question, they seem to have like a lot of the same people answering the questions, whether they're in the same market that the person is asking or not. So there's this guy, James Wise from Houghton Wise. I guess he's like really big in the Cleveland area. So he was answering people's questions, and I looked on his page. He has a YouTube page as well. So I started looking in the Cleveland area, and it was just something about the bigger cities that I don't know, it didn't really make sense to me. Like I can see someone being profitable in it, but it was just so big that I'm like, man, like one block, it was amazing. The next block, it was terrible. The next block, it was $1 million home. The next block, it was a $20,000 home. So it didn't, I couldn't understand it from a new investor's perspective. So I said, okay, well, if people are, buying in Cleveland, let me look around that area, maybe within a 2 to 3 hour radius. So I saw Columbus, I saw Cincinnati, and then I saw this little city like in the middle of them called Dayton. And since I'm from Yucca Valley, not from Yucca Valley, I live in Yucca Valley, and we have a pretty good real estate market not a lot of people know about. So I was like, well, I know Columbus is on fire. I'm kind of priced out of that market because I should have bought in Columbus 10 years ago, and kind of the same with Cincinnati. But this little city called Dayton, let me look more into that place. So I started to look more into Dayton, and my price range was about 35,000 and under. And I was looking for something like a property that fulfills like the 2%, the 1% rule. But in the Midwest, they say you can get it up to like 3 to 4%. So when I heard that, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna try and find something that I can get at least the 2%. So Dayton, all the numbers hit. They are, from an economic standpoint, they are still recovering from like the market crash and the economic hard times. So they haven't fully reached their stride, but I've seen performance indicators that are telling me that it's moving in the right direction. So once I saw that, I did a bunch of research just in real estate in general, because I didn't quite know what I felt I needed to know in order to make that leap. And then once I studied, man, eventually I said, you know what, I got to pull the trigger. There's only so many books I can read, so many podcasts I can listen to, so many people I can talk to. And eventually I figured it was time once I started hearing the same thing from different people. Like once I started hearing the same information, it's like, okay, you've been sitting on the sidelines long enough. It's time to get in the game and and make some moves. So that's kind of how I came to start investing in Dayton, man. Definitely. How about yourself?
Yes, just a couple of quick follow-up questions. I don't want to lose them. Can you explain to our listeners like the 1%, 2% rule and what that means for those who may not know?
Okay, so the 1% rule generally states that whatever you buy the property for, it should rent for at least 1% of the total purchase price. So for example, let's say you buy a house for $100,000. The general rule is it should rent for at least $1,000. So when I was looking in the Dayton market and I saw houses for like $20,000, $25,000 that can rent for potentially $750, I'm like, man, that blows the 1% rule out the water. Like that's, I look for houses in the 1% for the 1% rule, like in California, and I didn't see it. I kind of got close to it, but not quite. So, but in general, that's what it is. Is whatever your purchase price is, you should be able to rent your property for at least 1% of the total purchase price.
For sure. And what are some of the performance indicators that kind of let you know, this can be a good place to invest?
So one of the things that I looked at was the job growth, and to see. So what I was looking for was, I didn't need massive job growth, but I just needed to see positive job growth. So positive things that were coming in and infusing into the economy to be able to create jobs. I wanted the economy to, it was diversified, but I wanted to see more jobs in different sectors being brought into the city. So I looked at the blueprints, like certain planning of Dayton. So, and I liked what I saw. I saw that the population, so that people are always talking about like, oh, Midwest cities, they have the population is declining, right? So when I looked at Dayton, from where it is now up until in 2010, the decline was decreasing. So it was coming down. Let's say 10 years ago, population was decreasing by like 20%. Then 5 years ago, it was decreasing by 8%. And then 2 years ago, now it's decreasing by 1%. So I'm taking a risk, and I'm going to assume that it's going to go from decreasing by 1% to now increasing. If we're going to stay on the projected 10-year path, that it's going to start increasing 3%, 4%, 5%, so that I see that it's increasing with Cincinnati. I see that it's increasing with Columbus, and this place is smack dab in the middle. So for someone that, you know, I live in Yucca Valley, but I went to school in San Bernardino, and so I understand the like cities that are an hour away. Dayton is about an hour away from Cincinnati. So an hour away, that's nothing. Like I would work if I lived in Dayton and I had a good job offer in Cincinnati. I would work in Dayton and live in Cincinnati. I mean, for my IE people, Rancho Cucamonga, San Bernardino, Ontario, all those places, people left Los Angeles, went and traveled out to the IE, and then worked in Los Angeles. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so the distance is fine. I know people wouldn't mind doing that. And I see the economic development of those two cities, and I'm just waiting for the one for Dayton to kind of bridge that gap between Cincinnati, Columbus, and Columbus.
Definitely. That's great, man. That's great.
Hi, everyone. Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button, and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.